All right, hello and welcome back. Brett here with clickmail.co. So in this video, we were just talking, I guess in the last video, we were just talking about the root cause of burnout. We talked about two of them, and it's because we're spending more than we have. Well, how does this happen? This happens because of beliefs around business, actually, which is interesting because I think at least a lot of ministry leaders, if you're in business, this won't be a problem for you, but ministry leaders are like, well, it's not about business. Well, it kind of is about a strategic belief about business. And that is, do we do a bootstrap launch over here with our ministry or business where we just like, we have 37 cents, we have a nickel, and we rub them together and see what we can get out of it. And then we go from there. Or, and nobody wants to do that, by the way. Nobody wants to start something small and then grow it to something big. That's not what appeals to us. That's not flashy. That's not powerful looking. Okay. On the other side is, well, we're going to get some investors. We're going to get a bunch of people together. We'll have $100,000 in seed money, and then we'll start and we'll get a building and we'll have a launch and a big event. And this is how we think generally. I would say just most people think about it that way. And unfortunately, it is much, much harder to do it the second way, the big launch with all the money. And the reason why is this. If you've never started a business from scratch, how do you know how to run a business? If you've never started a church and run a church, how do you know how to run a church? You don't. That is why 9 out of 10 startup businesses fail in the first 5 years, because you have no idea what you're doing. Now, if you start 2 or 3 businesses or 4 businesses, you're one of the most experienced business people around, because most people quit round 1. You learned all the lessons. If you were smart and you're paying attention and you're like, well, how do I not do that again? You're going to be the best. And if someone in your growing a ministry from the ground up, if someone gave you an infusion of capital, you'd know how to use it because you know how to grow from scratch. But if you're just starting a ministry and you just get a bunch of cash, whether it's a business or it's a church, it doesn't matter. You just get this big infusion of cash and you just start going. You don't know what works. It's just, you're just going to have a bunch of good ideas and you're just going to chuck money at ideas, and that never works. At this point, you've probably heard the pickle pop talk. You're just going to have a building full of pickle pops and nobody's going to care. And then what's going to happen? Your tithes coming in every month, or your income from services going up every month, or, business products, whatever it is, your income is not going to go up high enough to pay for the monthly operating costs of whatever it is you started, because you had a glut of cash in the beginning and you set your cost too high. You guessed. How else would you know where to set your cost? Well, we'll be fine at 5,000 a month because look, we got 100,000, but we'll spend like 50,000 on the launch and we'll do a lot of stuff. And then what? You got $5,000 monthly budget, and turns out there's only enough people buying products or services or showing up to service and tithing to sustain 3,000. And well, that's not right. That is what happened. And so we don't have the experience to start with capital. And this is why I highly recommend, if you're going to start a ministry, don't go try to go find funding. Just start in your living room. Find a way to meet powerful needs until people start showing up in bigger and bigger numbers. And then when the income is coming in, when that tithe is coming in, when you're selling enough products out of your garage or whatever it is, scale up just a little, scale up just a little, just a little. And then one day you do have a large ministry, but also when the infusion of capital comes in, you know how to use it because you've seen every step and every bit of growth along the way. And then what? If you start big and you've got 100 grand, you're like, yeah, we'll be fine with 5,000 a month. Look, we've got 100 grand. We have no idea what we're doing, but 5,000 a month is nothing. And you just guess. And then it turns out there's only enough people in your whole town to sustain 3,000. You got to cut 50% of your ministry, and that's going to hurt a lot. But if you start from the ground up and you go and you build and you build, you know exactly how much it costs to run your ministry. And when you know how much it costs to run your ministry, you're not going to overspend. And then you can be sustainable over a very long period of time and maintain that sort of high performance kingdom fruit mentality for a long time. And so I recommend that in order to avoid that root cause of burnout, which is sort of that discrepancy between what you have and what you need, and not even seeing it, or seeing it and being like, no, we just have to grit through. Otherwise, we'll have to chop half the ministry. Just start small and just put the time in that's required. Because it turns out when you try to start something bigger than you can actually sustain, right? It takes character, it takes education, it takes a lot of work to run any kind of company. I can tell you firsthand, like 20 years in, and I'm still learning how to manage even a small team. And so, and so you want to grow the ministry at the pace you can sustain it. And that's easier to do when you start small. Now, after studying business and doing business and ministry and learning about growth, we've got 15 people here at ClickMill, and we've got clients that can pay the bills. We're not, all of these things. Could I take an infusion of capital and know where to put it and grow things? Yeah, absolutely. And I could even tell you, if you gave me this much money and I put it into advertising, we would get this much back. For every dollar we spent, I could get $5 back or $10 back, something like that. And I know exactly where to put it, but that only comes through the skill. And so with this, if you have the option to start small or start big, I tell you start small. Unless God calls you in the other direction, or unless you've got a lot of experience in ministry or in business or whatever it is you're called to, and you know how to use the money. If you have to ask yourself, do I know how to use the money? You don't know how to use the money, guaranteed. And I'm laughing at myself for that, because I used to want to be the person who's like, yeah, it's going to be huge, and we're going to, and it's just like, unless you've done it, you don't know how to do it. And that is going to set you up for very difficult burnout scenarios where you're trying to maintain and sustain things we don't have the skills to actually do. And we have that, again, that disparity between what we have to invest and what we need. And you're setting yourself up for failure. It actually hurts you in the long run to go big at the beginning. So wrapping up this video, if you have the ability to start small or start big, I say start small and build as you go, grow as you go. And that allows you to grow sustainably and never overspend what you need, or overspend the resources that you have to invest in the ministry. So with that, we will see you in the next video, where we're going to talk about some basic solutions to this issue of burnout. We'll see you there.